Hello all. In this lecture, we are going to study about another one application layer protocol called SMTP, that is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and it is the protocol which is very helpful for the process of electronic mailing system. We all know that electronic mail, that is your email, sending email or receiving email is one of the most popular internet services nowadays. So at the beginning, when this particular application is being developed, the SMTP protocol or the email system has used only text messages to be transmitted over the internet, but nowadays we are transmitting images, we are transmitting audios and even videos over the email, provided there is a limitation on the size. So the electronic mail system is becoming much more complex than the traditional one. So you can able to send a multimedia message over the email, and also you can able to do a kind of a multi-point transmission, which means you can able to send an email from one system to a group of people. That is a group messages you are sending, right? You will be sending an email to a list of, that is some 10 people or a group of people. You can put it in the to address. So many recipients you can able to send a message. So all these advancements makes the particular protocol much more complex than the traditional one. So in this chapter, we are going to study the general architecture of the email system from the first one to the present one. Okay, so initially the email system architecture is given as a scenario, and the advancements have been shown one by one, and the last scenario is nothing but the present internet system or the email system what we are using currently in the TCP/IP internet. And then we are going to discuss a major protocol which is being used in the implementation of the email system, that is your SMTP. So the electronic mail system here is categorized into 4 different architectures. So the first scenario in the email system architecture is nothing but as a kind of only one system. So here the system, what I mean is nothing but a kind of a motherboard, your CPU. Okay, you have a CPU and 2 different monitors have been connected to the same CPU, just a connection. Okay, so 2 people are connected to the same system. That is the very first scenario in the electronic mail system. It is similar to the mailing system which is being used in many companies. So in many companies, if you see, they will be having a mailing room. Inside the mailing room, they will be having separate lockers with each name, and when the authority wants to give a memo to a particular person, they will type the memo, they will take a printout and they put it in the corresponding mailbox, to corresponding person's mailbox. When the person comes, he'll open the box and he'll take the mail, like your postal system. You have a postal box in front of your home, so inside that the letter will be posted and you'll open it and you'll take it, right? Similar way of mailing system is this, that is 2 or 3 people will be connected to the same system. Then within the system, there will be so many mailboxes will be maintained. The mailbox will be given the name of each and every person, and it is a kind of a password protected. That is, authorization will be there. Only the corresponding person can able to open there is a restriction will be there to open the mailbox. Only the corresponding person will know the password, or he'll know the key to open it. He'll open the mailbox, he can take his mails. So this is the very first scenario. In this scenario, we are using an agent called user agent. So basically, if you see all the electronic mail system, we will be having 3 main people will be doing the job: user agent, message transfer agent, message access agent. So first scenario is having only user agent. What this user agent will do, he is going to write the mail and he'll put it in the system. Whereas in the receiver side, this user agent will take the mail and he will be helpful to read the mail. So reading and writing, storing and retrieving will be done by the user agent. So in the first scenario, the sender and receiver are on the same system. They are connected to a shared system. The administrator has created one mailbox for each user where the received messages are stored. So the mailbox is a part of the hard disk. Okay, so a portion will be given, this much capacity will be given to one person, this much capacity will be given to another person, like this. But in order to open the mailbox, you will be having a restriction. Only the owner can able to access it. So here in this example, Alice and Bob are the two people. When Alice wants to send a message to Bob, he will run a user agent, he'll write the message and he'll put it in the mailbox of Bob, which is being stored in the sender. And the Bob will come, he'll open the mailbox and he'll retrieve the message using user agent and he'll read the information. So this is the very first scenario. The scenario is useful when the sender and receiver are on the same system. We need only do user agent. The second scenario is when these two people are connected to different systems. Okay, when the sender is connected to one CPU whereas the receiver is connected to one CPU, these two systems are transmitted their information over internet. Okay, in this kind of scenario you'll have an user agent and you need to have a message transfer agent. Okay, so what this message transfer agent will do, he will take care of the transmission of the email over the internet. So this message transfer agent is a very important thing in the email architecture. This person will be responsible for transmitting the email over the internet. Okay, so here what will happen, when Alice wants to send a mail to Bob, he'll use the user agent first, he'll write the mail and he'll store it in the queue of the MTA client. So again the message transfer agent is working as a client server process, since they both are different, connected to different systems directly. So that is, both have the CPU. Okay, that is, Alice can directly access the mail transfer agent and the Bob can directly access the mail transfer agent. This is the meaning of same system. So he'll store it in the client first and the client will transmit it. The MTA client will transmit it over the internet to the MTA server, and in the server it will be stored in the mailbox and the Bob will retrieve the information from the mailbox using the user agent. This is the second scenario. The third scenario is there is no change in the receiver part, whereas if you see the user part, the user agent will not be directly connected to the MTA server. He will not directly connected to the MTA client. Okay, he will, the system, there is a mail server, MTA client. This one what I am showing here, this MTA client and the MTA server is nothing but the mail server. So whenever I want to send a message, our system is not the server, right? You have to access the server and then the server will access the server corresponding to the receiver, and like that only the process will happen. If I am directly connected to the server, this is the second scenario. Whereas if I am not directly connected to the server but the receiver is directly connected to the server, is the third scenario. In this kind of scenario, since the sender is not directly connected to the mail server, he is not directly connected means how he has connected? He has connected either through a local area network or a wide area network. Anyhow you have to access the server, then only you can able to do the communication. So you are not directly connected, whereas you are connected over internet. So again here there is a LAN or a WAN connection. What the Alice will do, he will write the message using user agent and he will transmit the message to the MTA client which is running in the system. So every application layer will be having an MTA client running. This MTA client over the internet, it will transmit it to the MTA server, and this MTA server is again send it to the client of the mail server. So here the meaning is like, I am accessing the mail server, but this mail server here is acting as a receiving the message from the person who is not directly connected to me. So when I am receiving, I am acting as a server and I am going to send it to the next server who is corresponding to the receiver. So at that time the particular server is acting as a client. So server, when we call it, is also a host computer. Every host computer can act as a client as well as a server based on the function. When I am accepting some data from a person, I will be acting as a server. My role will be as a server. When I am requesting my information, when I am requesting to send information to another person, my role will be becoming a client. That is the meaning. So first Alice will write the message, he will send it to the corresponding client, and this client will forward it to the mail system. So the basic server system, at that time it is acting as a server. And then this server will be giving the information to another server. At that time it will be acting as a client, and the other server will receive it and store it in the mailbox. Since the receiver is directly connected to the server, he will access it using the user agent and he will read the message. So if you see the overall scenario, you have two user agents and you need two pair of MTAs. So client server, this is one pair, and this client, this server is another pair. So 2 pair of MTAs you need, whereas 1 pair of UAs you need. In the previous one, 1 pair of UA and 1 pair of MTAs are required. Then the last scenario is a fourth scenario. This is the present scenario what we are using in our TCP/IP internet. Okay, so you have to understand what is this scenario is very well, because this is the one we are using nowadays. All other things were already ruled out. Okay, so if you see this, in this you have 2 user agent, 2 pair of MTAs, and 1 pair of another person called MAA, that is message access agent. What is this? Is nothing but, if you compare the third scenario and the fourth scenario, there is no change in the sender side, whereas there is a change in the receiver side. In the previous case, the receiver was directly connected to the mail server. Here the receiver is not directly connected to the mail server, he is connected over a LAN or a WAN. So when the allies wants to send a mail to Bob, he'll use the user agent, he'll write the message, he'll store it in the mail server, that is he'll inform the client will send it to the server, and then it will be stored in the queue, and then it will act as a server. It will forward the message to the receiver. The receiver system is not directly connected to the user, so he'll store it in the mailbox. Now the user need to take the message from the server. For that he need to use one more person called as message access agent. Now here there is no transferring, the receiver is going to access the mail, so it is called as message access agent. So in the MTA server you also have a MAA server. He will give the message to the MAA client, will be running at a receiver, and the Bob will be accepting the mail from the client. Okay, so this is the present scenario. So here in all the examples we have taken allies as the sender and Bob as the receiver. The same way reverse process is also possible. Bob as a sender and allies as the receiver, and every process, in the place of allies Bob will come, in the place of Bob allies will come, and all these things will remain the same. So this is what is the fourth scenario, that is when 2 persons are not connected to the mail server directly. Present scenario is like that. Your system is not connected to mail server directly. You have to reach the mail server over a wide area network. Similarly, the receiver is not also connected. He also accesses the mail server over a wide area network. Then you need to have 2 UAs, that is a pair of UAs, 2 pairs of MTA client, that is client server and this client server, 2 pair, and then 1 pair of MAA. MAAs means MAA client and server. This is the present scenario of your SMTP. So now we are going to take forward the fourth scenario, that is the present scenario what is being used in the internet nowadays. Here it is a kind of a push-pull operation. Push-pull means what? The message transfer agent is pushing the mail from the user to the mail server, whereas a message access agent is pulling the mail from the mail server towards the receiver. This is called as a pushing and pulling. So the MTA will push the message, whereas MAA will pull the message from the server. So now if you see the overall process, the MTA, that is the message transfer agent, is the very important person. Anyhow, all the people will have a user agent, they can able to write the mail. Only if the message transfer agent transfer the mail, then only the message access agent can able to retrieve it. So the message transferring is a very important process in the system of email. So we are going to discuss only about the message transfer agent. So whereas a user agent you have separate protocols, message access agent you have separate protocols, but in our syllabus we are going to discuss only on SMTP. So the SMTP is a simple mail transfer protocol. The actual mail transfer is taken care by the SMTP. Okay, so to send a mail, a system must have the client MTA, and to receive a mail, the system must have a server MTA. The formal protocol that is using this MTA client and server is nothing but this SMTP protocol. So this is the range of SMTP, that is where the SMTP is being used. So when 2 systems are not directly connected to the mail server, so see the scenario here. This SMTP will be useful from the user, that is from the sender to the mail server, and from the mail server of the sender to transmit the message to the mail server of the receiver. Again you need SMTP. From the mail server of the receiver to the system of the receiver, here this pink line is left blank because here it is the MAA, that is message access agent will be used. Here it is not SMTP. So SMTP's range is only this. Okay, so this protocol is what we are going to discuss. So SMTP is used 2 times between the sender and the receiver's mail server, and the SMTP is basically doing the communication with the help of commands and responses. Commands and responses means when the client send an information to a server, we'll call it as a command. When the server informs something to the client, we'll call it as a response. Okay, so there are basically 14 commands are there, and the 14 commands, the command is in the format of a small group of characters like this. These are all the different commands used by SMTP. No need to remember all these commands, you just have an idea, and you have to remember only few commands which is being used for the transmission process. That's what is given here. The first 5 commands are mandatory, all other commands are just randomly used. Responses are sent from the server to the client. The response is a 3-digit code that is followed by the information. So here the keyword, so here if you see the first 5 commands, that is hello, mail from recipient to, hello is nothing but sender's host name, mail from sender of the message, recipient to intended recipient of the message, data is the body of the message, quit is want to remove the connection. So only these 5 commands we will be automatically normally using in all the cases, whereas other commands will not use in normal cases. It is randomly or seldom, it is very rarely used. Whereas if you see the responses are a combination of 3 digits. So every combination of 3 digit will be having a representation, and followed by that you can able to give the information what is being sent by the receiver. Okay, so this is what is the commands and responses. It's not mandatory to remember all these commands and all these responses, whereas we are going to see the transfer phases. In this phases we will be using certain commands and responses only, that you have to remember for the exams. So the mail transfer, that is the mail transfer agent, is taking care of the mail transfer process. It is done in 3 phases: connection establishment, mail transfer, and connection termination. It's kind of a similar process which we have discussed in our TCP. So first we have to establish a connection between the server, that is MTA client, and the MTA server. Okay, so here we are not establishing between the host system and the destination system. We are establishing a connection between MTA client and the MTA server. So in order to establish a connection, as you all know, definitely between the host also you need to create a connection, that is a TCP connection has to be established. For that, first you have to identify the IP address of the receiver email server from DNS. Already we have discussed DNS. So using the DNS you can identify the IP address. So I am just sending some mail address I am giving, for example Ramesh at yahoo.com. if I am giving like that, using the DNS I can able to find out the IP address of the server corresponding to this person. Okay, and then I can establish a TCP connection using SMTP. The port number is 25. Already FTP we have used 20 and 21, whereas for SMTP the port number is 25. Okay, well known port number. Ephemeral port number is randomly chosen by the client. So the TCP connection is established, and then the server will be sending initially 220. That is, when server to client it is a number, when client to server it is a word, that you have to remember always. The server will send the number 220. What is the meaning of 220? Service ready. That is, the server is telling I am ready. So it is obviously the server will be ready always. Okay, all the clients which has been connected to the server, that is, if I am a client, I will be connected to some MTA server. Okay, the server will always keep on sending 220 to the client, that is, every time I am ready to accept a connection from you. And then the client, when it is wants to send a mail, he'll first send hello, HELO, and the hello means it's a host name, that is where I want to do a communication. Okay, that is, if you see that densa.edu, this is some URL to that particular URL I want to make a connection. Okay, so it is sending that, and immediately the server is responding with the number 250. 250 means okay. So first the server is sending 220, that is service ready. Then the client is sending a hello message along with the name of the host, and then the server is checking whether the host is available, whether I can able to make a connection to the host. All those things the server will check, and the server is sending a response 250. This is connection establishment. Then the mail transfer will happen. So the mail transfer, you are going to use the basically first 4 commands. The first 4 commands, the hello command is already used in the connection establishment. Next 3 commands, that is mail from, recipient to, and then data command we are going to use. This mail from recipient to and data. These three commands only will be used in the second phase of your SMTP protocol. So client and server is there. Initially, the client is sending mail from the particular sender. Suppose if I am sending a mail, the client will send, that is my MTA client will send my name at soandso.com or .edu. From what mail address this mail is going to be transmitted. For every time if you see the server is responding with 250, that is okay, okay, okay. If suppose it is not okay, it will be responding with what number? You have to see that. That is 421. 421 means service not available. Service not available is coming, you will not able to send the mail. Okay, so this is what is the thing. But normally this is a general mail transfer process. So 250 we are getting as a response from the server, and then the client is sending recipient to which person you have to send the transmission, and again he is telling okay. So once it's done, the client is sending data. It's a command alone. So the client is telling the server that I want to send the message, and then he is setting 354, that is start mail input. So first the client is making sure, so we as a user sitting in front of the application here, we don't know all these things, but when we send a mail, quickly all these processes are running. First the mail is checking whether I can able to make a connection with a particular person, and after I get response only I am sending the data. Okay, the server is giving 354, that is start mail input, you can send the mail, that is the response, and then he is sending from address to address, date and subject. So this is the body of your mail, you have the header of your mail, and then your blank line, and then this is the format of the message which is being transmitted over the MTA server. And then the dear so and so, we want to inform you, whatever be the information that will be transmitted, finally ended up with a single dot, that is the message is over, and then the server is responding with 250, that is okay. Okay, so the mail transfer is happening in these kind of steps only. So we know from our side, we are just typing the mail and we are pressing the send button. Once you press the send button from the application, this client and server will be taken care of all these processes, that is establishing a connection and doing all these things. And once the process is over, then the last step is connection termination. So once it is over, the MTA client will send a quit, that is after getting this 250 from the server, the MTA client, he is no, it's not having any more thing to transmit, so if he send a quit command, then the MTA server will be sending 221, means that service closed. Okay, so this is the commands and responses are being used by SMTP at the back end to transfer a mail over the message transfer agent. Now this message has reached only the server of the recipient. The server wants to the receiver wants to take the message from the server. For that he will use an MAA, that is a message access agent, and he will use another protocol to retrieve the message from the server. That is not a scope of our syllabus, so we are leaving it as a future study. So right now you need to know what are the different architectures of the electronic mail system and what is the difference between one and the other architecture. And we are using, in the present internet, we are using the fourth scenario, and the fourth scenario who are all there. And then you need to know the message transfer agent SMTP. What is SMTP, how the SMTP is being implemented, what are the commands, what are the responses, and what are the different phases of a mail transfer, and you need to explain about the different phases with the corresponding commands and responses. So this is under your SMTP. So that's all with SMTP. The next lecture we'll be seeing about another topic. Thank you.